This Great Day St. Louis Kitchen segment is brought to you by More for Less Remodeling. Get more for less.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Tuesday morning. As we prepare to gather around that table for the Thanksgiving feast, it is worth noting that some of our most beloved delicious dishes might be ultra-processed foods, a topic that has been gaining a lot of attention recently. I'm sure you've heard about it. So this morning we are unpacking the science behind ultra-processed foods and what that means for our diet and overall health, right here in the kitchen, sponsored by More for Less Remodeling with Dr. Whitney Linsenmeyer. And we say good morning to you and happy Thanksgiving.
And to you. Thank you.
Good to see you. We've talked about this a lot over the years with you, the processed foods and the need to eat as much fresh food as we possibly can, but also know that we leave ourselves an opportunity to splurge occasionally. What exactly, though, are ultra-processed foods?
Yes, when we are thinking about the processing of foods, we can envision a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, we have whole foods and minimally processed foods. This is basically fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, as they exist in nature. Or
organic, what we would maybe term organic, first of all, right? Organically.
More so like how they exist in their whole form, like grown from nature or raised in nature.
Pesticides and all of the chemicals that are added in and genetic altering and all that. Okay.
And then if they've just been minimally processed, this is if they've just been frozen or baked or steamed in some way that really doesn't impact the nutritional profile.
But that's considered processed, but not ultra processed.
Right, still minimally processed foods.
Right.
Yep, so we want our diets to be mostly those whole and minimally processed foods.
Right.
And then as we move along on the other end of the spectrum, that's where we're getting into processed and ultra processed.
Okay.
So for processed food, this is a food that has added, sugar, salt, and sodium to it. The original ingredient might still be intact, but we've had those additional nutrients added that we know we are trying to limit in our diet. Then when we arrive at those ultra-processed foods on the far end of the spectrum, these are foods that really don't represent how they originally existed in nature. And a lot of times they've had a lot of preservatives added to them as well. I think the best way to think about this is foods that we are not making in our home kitchens. These are foods that are made by companies, by food manufacturers.
Okay. So what does that mean to our health then?
Yeah, so before we jump in, can I give you a good example to really envision the spectrum? Okay.
Okay, good.
So a whole food, if we're talking about corn, I love to talk about corn as an example, another Thanksgiving food. If we had corn on the cob, right, that's a whole food as it exists. That's how it grows in nature.
Right.
And then if I shave the corn off of that cob and I freeze it, that would be a minimally processed food, right? All of the nutritional value is still intact.
And not a lot of additives.
Nothing added, right?
Okay.
Then if I can that corn and I add in, I make a creamed corn and I add in a cream sauce and some sugar and some fat and some salt, then we're getting into that realm of processed. Then if I take that corn, I dry it, I mill it into a flour, strip out the nutritional value, add in some fat, extrude it into a chip form, deep fat fry it, add some sodium, then we arrive at the corn chip. Okay, that's our ultra processed food. Does not resemble corn in any real way.
No,
right?
but it has corn in the title, which
sure
is
does.
kind of deceiving, isn't it?
Yes, but of course we all recognize like a corn chip doesn't really represent that corn on the cob.
So do we have to avoid this at all costs, at all times?
Not at all. I love a corn chip.
Okay.
Perfectly fine to have some ultra-processed foods in the diet, but we want most of our intake to be coming from those whole and minimally processed foods.
Right.
So we have lots of research that is now correlating that diets that are mostly comprised of the ultra-processed foods to conditions like obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. So we want to build our diet around those whole and minimally processed foods to support our health overall.
I remember when I was single, I was concerned because I was cooking for myself. And I didn't want, so I would get a lot of frozen things, and I would think about the sauce. I mean, yes, the peas are in there, or the Brussels sprouts are in there somewhere, frozen and probably not really modified in any way, but then they put the sauce in on top, and then that just kind of ruins it for me.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be afraid of frozen vegetables, right?
We should embrace frozen veggies.
Okay.
And yeah, we're just keeping an eye out for the ones that have the added sauces, sodium or sugar to them.
And if you look on the back, and we're not knocking Del Monte, but when you look on the back and you see a whole list of ingredients in a can of corn, something's going on in there.
Right, exactly. Especially when you see ingredients that we are not cooking with in our home kitchens. That's what food companies are using to develop those products.
Well, if you eat right, then you end up looking like this young lady, and if you eat wrong, All right, you can find this segment on firstalert4.com/greatday following the show.